Hi and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. This time around I'm doing something a bit different, but I say that every second video. It's Science Fiction Saturday again, and I thought I'd put together a curation for an imaginary science fiction movie festival. There's a lot of science fiction movie festivals around, and for me a lot of them just don't hit. So I thought I'd put together a dozen or so movies that I thought would work as, say, a 2 or 3 day science fiction movie festival. As usual, that's a very opinionated video, and some of the movies people won't like, some of them they'll love, some of them people will have a higher opinion of than me, but that's okay. It's just a bit of a thought experiment, a bit of fun, just seeing how you guys think this would work as a science fiction movie festival. And if there are any philanthropic millionaires out there who want to put one together here in Melbourne, happy to do that for you. First off, I'm going to go with one that I don't like, but a lot of people do. And one of the things I had to remember is that when I'm putting together a science fiction movie festival, it's not just about me, it's about stuff that will get bums on seats. And so I thought I'd go with Logan's Run. Logan's Run I don't particularly love as a movie. I think there are good aspects to it. I kind of don't love that shopping mall future, which a lot of science fiction movies of a certain age have, and Logan's Run is probably the prime example of. Another one of those would probably be Demolition Man. Those kind of shopping mall futures where everything looks like a shopping mall and everybody seems to live in one. But Logan's Run's got a couple of good bits. Peter Ustinov steals the movie as the old guy. Michael York and Jenny Agutter have no charisma at all together. We get the voice of Roscoe Lee Brown playing Box, a robot, and I wanted to see more of that robot. And, you know, it's one of those 1970s science fiction movies which feels like it could not be made in any other decade except the 1970s. So the first movie I've got for this film festival is Logan's Run. Then I thought I'd match it up with something even older, something which has got a little more grunt to it than Logan's Run does. And it's not just about people at the age of 30 dropping dead because a weird cult religion that their city has created makes them die at the age of 30 and pretend they're going to live in an afterlife. This one's about Cold War paranoia, directed by Don Siegel, based on a magazine serial by Jack Finney. The original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Now, Phil Kaufman's version from the 1970s is good, but I think the original one really was something different for 1950s American science fiction. It had likeable actors, you know, Kevin McCarthy's in there, Dana Winter, Larry Gates, Carolyn Jones is in there as well. But rather than having really well-known actors the way we did with the 1970s one where you get Leonard Nimoy and you get Donald Sutherland, all really named actors, these guys weren't particularly well-known at the time. And that parallel between Cold War communist paranoia and the pod people taking people over is something that really lands hard for a 1950s audience, and it'll probably play well to a modern audience as well. So I thought I'd throw that one in there just to get things sweetened. Now I'm going to be going through a number of decades with this science fiction movie festival, but I thought Invasion of the Body Snatchers was a good second film to put in there. Then we've got a choice. We can show all 5 of these movies, or we can not. That's The Fly. This is a Viavision box set of all 5 Fly movies. The Fly from 1958, Return of the Fly from the early 60s, Curse of the Fly, which is probably the least of the 5, The Fly, the David Cronenberg remake with Jeff Goldblum, and The Fly 2, Electric Boogaloo, from a few years later. So I thought I'd throw that in there as well because I think it'd be really great in a movie festival to compare and contrast, say, the 1958 Fly with the Cronenberg version. Very different films. The first one's more like a police procedural, and the second one is what my friend Sean Williams calls a murdering twin maker. Teleportation is that it rips you apart and creates a copy of you somewhere else. So it murders you and then it makes a twin. So all teleportation that I've seen in movies are murdering twin makers. This is a nice box set too. Every single movie has its own disc. And I do have the option of upgrading this to 4K or Blu-ray, but I kind of like having all 5 of them in one box. And so I've got that And I think you could curate a little more intensely which movies you would show in a film festival. And again, my favourite would be to do the 1958 and the 1986 version back to back. Just blow people's heads off. Then I thought I'd do a stream in the middle of the film festival of 3 science fiction movies with strong female characters. And this one's an adaptation of Jeff Vandermeer's novel, directed by Alex Garland, Annihilation, with Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaac, about an area in the southern US which has something called the Shimmer, which is an area under alien influence where genetics are mutable. So there's a lot of mutation of whatever enters the Shimmer from genes from different species, plant and animal, can be crossbred at random by whatever is controlling the Shimmer. Really great visuals on there, strong female characters as well, good horror aspects, which is always a nice thing, and I think this one works. It's a bit, like it says on the back, it's a mind-blowing experience. And it can't be led by actresses rather than beefy male actors. Really makes it land in a different way than it would, say, if you got Jason Statham and Iko Uwais being the lead characters in them. But Annihilation, definitely there. Next one, of course, Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, Forrest Whitaker in Arrival, based on the story by Ted Chiang, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Really strong movie with a strong female lead, and it really challenges the audience to understand what's going on. It challenges the audience to understand that as contact is made with the big squiddy aliens in these interesting looking but very bare bones looking spaceships, the minds of the people contact to them are changed forever, and their perceptions of things like time and duration are altered completely by understanding the way the aliens think. Really strong science fiction in that, strong characters as well, and it just lands, it works really well, and it's one of those science fiction movies I think that's going to be appreciated a lot more in future years. Then I'll go for one which is technically a zombie movie, but it's a science-based zombie movie. The zombification is caused by fungus. Stars Gemma Arterton, Paddy Considine, Glenn Close, and Senia Nanua, The Girl with All the Gifts. This is a very different zombie movie, with a young girl who's infected with a zombie plague. The world's been ravaged by it. There's a military base where all of the kids who are affected by this plague are held prisoner, and things just go in a really interesting direction from there. I think this one's strong. Doesn't have an enormous budget, which I love. They did a lot with a little. Really striking visuals, good solid character actors playing all the roles, and it takes the narrative in a direction that a lot of science fiction movies wouldn't go. So, a lot of science fiction movies like this are about solving the problem, and this isn't. This is about adaptation to a situation you can't control. The Girl with All the Gifts is a really underrated science fiction movie. Then we'll do a little bit of AI, because AI is always fun, though there is an enormous moral panic about AI at the moment, and I'm going to address that in my next video in a very odd way. But I thought I'd start out with the Spike Jonze movie Her, with Joaquin Phoenix. It's got Amy Adams again, Rooney Mara, Olivia Wilde, and Scarlett Johansson as the voice of an AI app on the phone of the character played by Joaquin Phoenix. And the AI in that app becomes companion to him and has a relationship with the character. But the AI is constantly evolving, and that then leads to consequences that aren't anticipated by the human characters in the movie. It's got a beautiful visual style about it. It looks futuristic without actually using too much that is futuristic in a physical prop sense. And again, it's one of those ones that's going to be a hallmark of how we saw ourselves in this era of human civilization. Really like Her. Probably need to watch it again. Then we've got another Alex Garland movie, Ex Machina. If you're going to talk about AI movies in the 21st century, you can't not talk about Ex Machina. Domhnall Gleeson's in there, Oscar Isaac again, Alicia Vikander as the AI. And this one's about so many cool things. It's about the male gaze, it's about billionaire tech bros and the way they see the world and the way they want the world in the future to be. It really does give us something interesting. And the AI in this one does not think the same way a human does. It's not just a human level intelligence. It's off to one side. It's something different. It's something we haven't seen before. The humans in it, particularly the men in this situation where Oscar Isaac's character is testing an AI and brings in somebody from his company to test it with, a green idiot played by Domhnall Gleeson. Both of them are wrong about the nature of the AI, and both of them don't understand the nature of the AI, and that makes this a really fascinating film, particularly in the last 10 or 15 minutes of the movie. Got to see that one. It's got to be in the film festival. Then I thought I'd throw in some comedies, because you've got to leave in this stuff with serious, non-serious, frivolous, non-frivolous. And there's a really good Japanese movie from a few years ago. It was made during the pandemic called Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes. This one's great. It's about a guy who runs a coffee shop in Osaka, and he's watching the TV monitor of his shop while he's upstairs in his apartment, and sees himself down there talking to him from 2 minutes in the future. Something's gone wrong with the connection on the CCTV, and he can see 2 minutes into the future, and this leads to enormous complications over the next hour or so. A lot of this film was filmed in real time in single takes, and it's just great. It's fun, it's imaginative. He uses a small cast during pandemic lockdowns to tell the story. It's very unlike any American or English film, and Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes you should check out. It's just a lot of fun, and it does things in a very interesting way. And I thought I'd go back to the 60s for a science fiction comedy. Based on a play by John Anthropos and Spike Milligan. It's absurdist, it's crazy. It mocks the apocalypse. It mocks the Cold War, and it mocks post-apocalyptic movies. Directed by Richard Lester, and the cast is fantastic. Rita Tushingham, Dudley Moore, Harry Seacombe, Arthur Lowe, Roy Kinnear, Spike Milligan, Ronald Fraser, Jimmy Edwards, Michael Horton, Peter Cook, and Ralph Richardson. It's about people mutating after a really fast atomic war, and one of the people, played by Ralph Richardson, is mutating into being a bed sitting room. Absurdist comedy, beautiful locations in junkyards, and there's a lot of rubbish in this movie. In the sense of there's a lot of discarded rubbish in this movie. A lot of fun. You should check that one out. And it's definitely got to go into this weird science fiction movie festival I'm imagining. Got two last ones for you. We've got to do a bit of disaster stuff, because disaster always plays well in science fiction. I'll go chronologically on these. This is the 101 Films version of Crack in the World. 1965, I think, if I'm not wrong. I'll put up on here whether I am. Starring Dana Andrews, Kieran Moore, Jeanette Scott, and Alexander Knox. It's about some people in Africa who are boring a hole to the outer crust, to the outer core of the Earth, and they split it. Things are going mad. You've got Dana Andrews playing the older husband of Jeanette Scott's character, who is dying of cancer and doesn't tell her. It really does have a kind of urgent craziness about it. And it's one of those Saturday afternoon movies that you saw on TV on the Saturday afternoon. It just blew your mind. Special effects are no better than you'd expect from the 1960s, but they tell the story well. There's some really nice sets that they create for the base where this experimentation is going on. And so I thought throwing in a piece of adventure, disaster science fiction from the 1960s would be worthwhile, and Crack in the World's a good choice there. The last one I've got for you is one that came out in 1998 in parallel with a much more successful movie telling slightly similar story. The other movie was Armageddon, and I saw it on the 4th of July 1998 in Orange County. I remember I was there. And it was only later that I saw Mimi Letter's Deep Impact. Both of them are about a comet or a meteorite coming towards the Earth and hitting it in some way. But for me, this is a better film. It's got a killer cast in it. Robert Duvall's in there, Tia Leone, Elijah Wood, Vanessa Redgrave, Max Minnichell, Morgan Freeman playing the president. And there's a lot more heart to Deep Impact than there is to Armageddon. The special effects are pretty damn good as well. and the characters are much more believable. It's not a boy's own adventure in the same way that Armageddon is. This is somebody trying to tell a serious human story around a world-changing disaster. And I like it for that. It works well. The characters are well-defined and interesting. And it comes to that point, inevitably, in all these kind of movies. How are these people going to die, or how are they going to survive? And for me, at least, it doesn't have that stupid American jingoism that Armageddon just leans into. Because, of course, it's a Michael Bay movie. But I think Deep Impact, if you're going to do a film festival, Deep Impact's a better choice than Armageddon ever would be. So that's what I've got for you this time around. My ideas for a science fiction film festival. Let me know if you want me to do another one. I'm sure I can find a lot of other stuff to put into, say, a 10 or a 12 movie science fiction movie festival. If I go with what I got on this one, I think it's 13 films. It was fun putting this together and just working out when I wanted to show each one in my imaginary cinema. Let me know what you think of this kind of video too, because I like putting it together, but I want to know whether it impacts with an audience. So that's it for this time around. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notification bell. Tell me what movies you would add to a science fiction movie festival. And don't say Star Wars, because every effing science fiction movie festival at some stage will touch base with George Lucas in some way. You can also support the channel by donating at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. Tell me what you think of the new setup. I've got more shelves, and I've actually fixed up the movie room. This room is completely fixed up now, and when I do, this place is going to look great, and I'll do a reveal video on it in the future. But until then, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Make your own science fiction movie festival and have a bit of fun with that. And I'll catch you next time.